Hello, everybody. It is E, and this is the Not So Creative Podcast. I'm going to do something a little different today. I follow the sport, and sometimes I don't follow it, and other times I do follow it. We're going to talk about it. Be baseball. Spring training's already here. A lot of things going on. We'll see what the hype is about, which teams are favorites, and so on and so forth. Again, I don't really know much because there's so many games in the season, and there's so many players as well. But we'll talk about one of the teams that I'll probably be paying a lot of attention to this year, aside from the Mets. But I don't think the Mets are going to have a good season, so there's not really much to talk about when it comes to the Mets. It's unfortunate, but it is true, and it's a fact. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to cheer them on, from afar. Like, I'm really close to them, but not really. I hope it makes sense what I'm saying. I just feel like the off season was sort of like this. It was more, it was beyond that. It was just like this. It was, they tried. I just felt that it wasn't, I can't say enough because they did try for Yamamoto. It just ended up being that there's a guy by the name of Shohei Ohtani who I was able to see play last year with the Angels, 2 games in Citi Field. Did not disappoint. The hype was really there. It is really there. And the hype train was already going already. When you have a player that is a pitcher, can hit for power, on base percentage, I believe was the highest in baseball, or at least the highest in the American League. Has won 2 out of 3 MVPs. Probably was in contention for it to have 3 in a row if it wasn't for Aaron Judge having that crazy season that year with the Yankees. He would have won 3 in a row. Now, when I was thinking about the Mets have, all this money. The hedge fund guy they got, Steve Cohen, he's going to go all out. And I know he's going to get him. And it was almost like after the investment he made last year in getting Verlander, paying some crazy amount to then just give up on the team, which I looked at it as giving up on the team and just sending them their ways and still paying a good portion of the contract. And I'm speaking about the Mets right now, just to kind of give a little feedback. And then when you hear what, Scherzer saying, rumor was that he was saying was that they're not going to play to be competitive until 25, meaning I wanted out at that point. I was not going to wait another year and a half for this team to be competitive. The red flags were up. The red flags were up, and they were high. Not just red flags, it was the white flag. The white flag was up, and it was saying, hey, you know what, we surrender. And I'm thinking to myself, there's another team across in the Bronx that even though at times they have bad seasons, and they haven't won in a while, speaking of the Yankees, they don't give up. I don't see them trade their players all of a sudden just mid-season after you sign them. I mean, that was some crazy shit going on. But it is what it is. So when that happened, my whole idea was, all right, the Mets are going to go sign Shohei and throw him whatever they can throw him because he isn't be going over 600. I knew it. If you're paying good pitchers over $300 million in baseball and you're paying a good hitter or good hitters over 300 million as well. You add those two numbers together, multiply by two position players, that's your 700 million. It was only a matter of who was going to sign him, who was in to get him, and who was in to capitalize the most. And seeing how things were being done with Shohei, when I was able to see him play live against the Mets, which is a rare road trip for the Angels to come over to New York to play against a National League team, it was a hot ticket. The Mets sucked, so I was able to get good tickets at a low price, down in field level. And that was after already he had torn his right elbow ligament or whatever was going on. Or obviously he couldn't pitch no more, but knowing that he could hit, and they had gotten the orders that, you know what, it's not going to make the injury any worse. The guy's a trooper. He played, and he was playing to get those numbers up a little higher. You know, you can make it more attractive. Hey, you know what, the guy's hurt. Oh, but he can still hit. Shoot, you know what? Everything was being run by his team. And again, I'm just going back based on what I'm reading from Shohei Ohtani's team. They were calling the shots. And I remember that game that went to, this is after the ligament tear. That was a game on Saturday. He had a double, triple. Can't remember how many RBIs he had. Intentional walk. Yeah, I mean, the guy brought it. So fast forward, it came down to these couple of teams that were here to sign him. You had the Dodgers, which were a huge favorite to sign him. And I have no problem with the Dodgers. The Angels, well, you know, if they had a competitive team, he most likely would have stayed. He just didn't see it. And I'm surprised that I never heard of the Angels offered him anything, but there was nothing for him. He knew what was going on with that team, what the farm system was like, what players they had, and so on and so forth. Even though the Angels tried, they did try. But by the time they were trying anyway, the team was kind of like right there. And then, of course, you know, they kind of just dipped. And, yeah, I mean, they didn't have a great team anyway. And if you remember when Shohei played in the World Baseball Classic, you get that feeling of how it feels to win, you know, a championship. You know, the WBC is not some just like, oh, okay, you know, just whatever. Just some, you know, no-name tournament. It's a tournament. Teams come and go. Favorites get bounced just like in anything else. You know, there's always a favorite that gets eliminated. And, you know, the crazy thing was when he pitched and he closed out that game, who did he strike out? He struck out his own teammate, Mike Trout. And he won. And he, you know, if that was that feeling, and I'm sure that even pushed it even further about, you know, I want to win. Of course, you know, the money is one part, but at a certain point, you know, to be, you know, separate yourself from, you know, just being a great player. You want a team effort to win a championship. And he did what he had to do. You know, as crazy as the offseason was, when you hear about the flight trackers in Toronto, and then you had the Cubs in the play in San Francisco and Seattle, and you had all these teams, it was interesting. You didn't hear nothing about the Yankees or the Mets, which I was shocked about. Now, again, I don't follow much of the Yankees because I don't follow them at all. You know, I'm a Met fan, and that's it. Nothing against the Yankee fans. I have no issues with that. I just found it so strange that you did not hear anything from either side. I only heard, you know, I read what I heard after hearing things from, you know, people around. And then I looked up online and it said, you know, Steve Cohen said, hey, nobody reached out to us about him. He wants to stay out in California in the West Coast. That's interesting because then if that's the case, how was he considering Toronto then? Right? It was enticing. Plus, on top of that, they had this whole, you know, new batting practice facility in Florida that was state of the art. So there were a lot of things that he was considering. And at the end, the Dodgers were the team at his home in California. Not too far from where he's at. So it only made sense. It made a lot of sense for him to do that. In addition to that, there were, I also read, of course, the whole deal to defer payments now. I'm going to fast forward a little bit again. He signed with the Dodgers for a 10-year, $700 million contract. That just doesn't happen. My math was right the whole time. You get a great pitcher, MVP, an amazing offensive hitter, nearly the best of both worlds. You don't see that. You're going to pay the guy. And props to his team, to his agent, to himself for working as hard as he has to be here. This just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in that way. And then out of that whole 10-year, he's deferring $680 million of it. $680 million of it. It's almost like, most of us was like, well, we take the money now. I can't judge because I know from reading in sponsors alone, he's getting paid. He has New Balance. He has Seiko. He has a whole bunch of other brands overseas, over here. And, between taxes probably, and also, in addition to that, he just didn't want to be just a guy to sign with the team and then the team can't sign anybody else. The plan was, that was the plan the whole time. His plan the whole time was, sign me, but I want my payments deferred. In addition to that, I want whoever I go to have the chance to even build around me. And they did that because the Mets were after Yamamoto, offered him a similar deal, and he went with the Dodgers because the Dodgers had still enough money to go after the other guy because of the deferral of payments. We can scream, we can shout, we can complain. I think that was brilliant. If that was your team and your team pulled it off, we wouldn't be saying a word either. I'm very fair when it comes to sports. I'm not like, hey, I hate this team or anything. I just follow the team I have. But I will say, I will be following the Dodgers this year. Nothing against the Mets. Nothing against them. It's just, didn't understand the moves from last year. I'm not holding on to them, but I will be watching the Dodgers. Home is where the heart is at, right? So the Mets are home. And the Dodgers are my favorite away team right now. Because they did something that, from the press, we're complaining about. Saying, how is that done? That's not, there's no rule that says you can't defer payments. It's been getting done for a long time. Ask Bobby Bonilla, who probably still had one of the best contracts ever when you think about it. And with who was that with? It was with the Mets. So this is nothing new. It's just the amount that was so astronomical is what made it such a big deal. And that was it. So anyway, the Dodgers get the two-time AL MVP from 21-23, 2018 Rookie of the Year, 3-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger. I mean, you can name the list. Well, let's say WBC champion as well. World Baseball Classic. And you sign another pitcher along with it, another one that's very hyped. 25 years old, by the way, to, I think, what was a $300 million contract, $300+ million contract? Did they? I'm not sure. They also got someone else. They were able to pull off a couple of moves. The team wants to win. And I'm sure, the clubhouse right now is comfortable because they know who they have around them. They know what this team is doing and what they're trying to do and just win a championship and win one. Everybody's happy. Ohtani's happy. Now, there's only one thing in that deal that sticks out. I don't know the names because, like I said, but I read it. There is an out clause for him in this contract. And it has to do, I think, with the president. Is it the president? One of them. That if they leave, then he can basically opt out. So he basically just secured the guy's job for who knows how long because the Dodgers don't want to have this guy leave. On top of winning, it's a business deal. It opens the doors to new fans globally, which is the part that for me was so frustrating that even, again, as a Mets fan, you want something, you want the guy, you think this is, I'm not going to say once in a lifetime player, but it's close enough. We're talking about like Babe Ruth type of shit here. Right? So we just don't even attempt because he doesn't want to move to the East Coast. Think of something different. Think of a plan. Think of an idea. It's only for, 4 months in the year you'll be here. The East Coast. We'll get you a place. Oh, you don't even know? You think the city's the only place you could live? No, New York is huge. We have beautiful suburbs with beautiful houses that'll remind you of what you have. Let's show you around. His team didn't reach out to us. That's the way you really want to go after someone? I mean, the Blue Jays almost got him. That would have been something. Then what? Anyway, enough about that. So yes, I will be watching the Dodgers. When I have time, I'll be checking scores, seeing it. I did do a fantasy league. I rarely do fantasy leagues. I don't do it for money. I do it for fun. I hadn't done one in about 10 plus years, maybe like 12. And I just did one today. I don't even know how my team is going to be. I tried. And the funny thing is, most of the guys that I picked right now are sort of like day to day. But again, it's spring training. The season hasn't started. So there's no panic mode anyway. So I'm not going to panic. I think on the offensive end, as long as they stay healthy, it'll be good. So my team, of course, starts with the knee because, initial Z. I'm just going to go into that for a quick moment, just kind of change subjects for a second, and then try to go back into whatever. A little transition baseball, fantasy, and then some other stuff. By the way, the show's not sponsored for anything. This is just me talking about sports. I love it. When I get a chance to watch it, I do, which is very rare, but I do read a lot about it. Usually check box scores and highlights, and that's good enough. I mean, I am busy, podcast, eBay, work, other stuff, personal stuff. So anybody who listens, I appreciate it. Anybody who puts the time to listen to the show, I am grateful. And as long as the show grows and I get people to follow and whatever and listen, I will try to do other things. It's just, it's not as easy doing the podcast, but hey, I'm doing it. So I greatly appreciate everybody doing it and listening. So when I picked my team, I did it through Yahoo, which Yahoo has been there forever. And they do an amazing job. I don't know what I picked. I picked Rotisserie because I think that was the one I played years ago. I don't even know. It is what it is. I just picked. So, of course, who do you think was the first guy I went after? Against what it was giving me to, what it was recommending me to do, to choose as the top players. And I already knew who they were. My first guy was Ohtani. And I was the 7th pick. I had 6 people ahead of me who did not pick Ohtani. And this is the reason why I picked him. I'm hoping that the guy doesn't get hurt. And if he does, then goodness, I don't know. But he's not pitching this year, which is a great thing. Because that means that he's going to be focused offensively. And if he could do what he was doing last year immediately after he tore his ligament, then I expect him to have a monster year over the 6 other guys, whoever they were ahead. And I knew who they were. I didn't pick them. So I was able, and I was lucky enough to get Ohtani. And I ended up getting him. So I'm going to name my team. And if anybody hears it and listens to the whole show, maybe give me some feedback, because I don't even know. I try to do the best I can with it. I try to mix it up a little bit. On the pitching end, I know it was what it was. All right, so I'm going to let you know. Here's my team, and I'm going to start from catcher all the way down. I already gave it away as my first pick was Shohei. I don't remember what my picks were, but Shohei Ohtani was my first pick. So that was the first one I got, and I was happy about that. Again, I'm not playing for money. I'm not playing for anything. It's just, just to see what I do. It'll just sit there. I'll let it sit there through the whole season, and whatever, something happens and whatever. But that's how I did it. So my catcher, which I believe is going to be a good one, I have Francisco Alvarez from the Mets. I remember last year he came up. I can't remember how soon he came up. If it was like maybe almost middle of the year or a little after. He had a pretty good season last year for just power. And I will go with that. RBIs, he had 63, 25 home runs at only 382 at-bats. If he can go over 500 at-bats, let's say 550, and he's young, I expect him to play the full season this year. After what they saw we did last year, I'm thinking 40 home runs. I don't know. But again, you know how this can go. Healthy season. First baseman was Justin Turner, who's in Toronto. Second baseman, Jeff McNeil. Third baseman, Manny Machado. I'm happy with that pick. Shortstop, Corey Seager from Texas. And if I mispronounce some of these names, please, I'm sorry. I'm going to try the best I can. Outfielder from the Dodgers, Teoscar Hernandez. I just wanted to just make it sound like that. The outfield, my other outfielder, who I believe is a center fielder, the Korean player, Jung-Ho Lee, picked him. Don't know, never played in the league at all. I don't know, but I expect him to get his hits. Then on the outfield again, I'm sorry, I'm laughing because someone said, "Hey, what are you doing? You picking like the whole, the all-star from the Far East?" And I said, "No, this is just what I believe will be I want a balanced team." So in the outfield from the Cubs, I picked Seiya Suzuki. Decent year last year. Hit a decent average, 285. Good enough for me. I will go with that. Then, of course, I have Shohei, and I have Bo Bichette. So, shortstop from the Blue Jays. Then the other hitters I have are Brandon Nimmo, Mets. Well, I expect him to have a decent year. He did sign a deal that year. It was kind of so-so, but he warmed up later on. J.B. Crawford from Seattle. Ty France, Seattle. Austin Hayes, Baltimore. Tim Anderson. And again, I try. He was with the White Sox. He was having a strong year. I can't remember if it was the year last year or if it was the year before. He had a high average, and I'm not sure what happened. And then that popular, brawl where he got basically almost knocked out. He was on shaky legs. Anyway, he's in Miami now. So yeah, I believe he's on a 1 year. I just looked up like not too long ago. He's on a 1 year deal with Miami. And then for my pitchers, this is where I struggle a little bit because I went all just for offense. I've never played fantasy league on baseball, so I didn't know. So I went with Kodai Senga with the Mets, who I like a lot. Yu Darvish from San Diego now. Probably the last couple of years. Alexis Diaz from the Cincinnati. Tanner Scott from Miami. Bailey Ober from the Twins. Shota Imanaga from the Cubs. I believe that is this his first time in the league? Again, if anybody listens, let me know. And I'm on YouTube. So if you listen on YouTube, just leave comments and I appreciate it if you listen. Hunter Brown from Houston. And the new Mets signee, Luis Severino, who came from the Yankees. Signed with the Mets. So I think it's decent. On the batting end, I was fine. Could have been some of, the infield to me is solid. It's more than solid. And then, of course, the DH, goodness. Yeah, you can't get anything better than Ohtani. So that's my fantasy team. And, yeah. So, it's going to keep on going. So, yeah. So, going back to the Dodgers, they're going to be a fun team to watch. They will be a fun team to watch. It will be interesting. And going back to what I was saying, it's a business. The amount of television that they're going to be watched from, worldwide in Japan, Asia, even over here. The guy there's nothing to dislike about Ohtani. You could just see, when like I said, when I saw him play, the guy is a true professional. And, when you think about it, as high as contracts are when it comes to sports, yes, we already know. Between the merchandising, between, he has his endorsement deals. The Dodgers will probably be offered endorsement deals from who knows where. From, businesses from overseas or new ones that want to have, be a part of it. Even from the jersey. Don't forget, there's always sponsorship deals and there's always the extra patch of the business that they are affiliated with. Now that you have a player like that in Ohtani, and let's not forget Yamamoto, you have two players with the massive international following from Japan and there's a high interest from others. That's going to create a lot of business for them. And that's where they also win. Aside from, of course, a world championship will separate you, but on the business end, it's going to be off the charts. Like I said before, I believe the guy alone is making $50 million in endorsement deals, which is amazing. That's very rare for a baseball player. Rare. Usually you see that in basketball. NFL, I don't know. Maybe someone can clarify that. I'm going based on what I remember. Jordan's in that territory. LeBron. Baseball? That's insane. And part of that's the reason why he deferred that deal. It's like, I'm making enough. I'm fine. I'm making a lot anyway, so it's not a big deal. I'm getting paid. And props to New Balance, by the way. Who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? New Balance has some good athletes on their, on their brand. And their sneakers are getting better and better. Not to switch it. And then when you have someone like him, as far as Ohtani under that creates even another audience. Again, it's like a chain reaction. So, A little baseball I was talking about, a little venting about the Mets. High praise for the Dodgers. Spring training has started. A lot of good stuff. It's spring training is that time of the year, when it's early in the year, that first quarter is about to pass and spring is coming. And then it's like, okay, now it's the nice, well, over here in the East, we're going to spring ahead soon. Sun's going to seem as if it's going down a lot later. The feeling of seeing nice things again, a little later, goes up, becomes a little bit more alive, is not so, dark. So, those moments, are kind of like that. And that's the beauty of the sports, if you follow sports, even if you don't have, you don't have to. It's just, you kind of, the calendar is flawless when it comes to that. Football's over. You have basketball now. They had the All-Star game. The hockey had the All-Star game. And then you have spring training. Now it's about, and, soon we're going to have Formula One. NASCAR already started. And, since I'm not sure if anybody has heard my other podcast, I do some wrestling podcasts here and there when I can. And their big show's coming up in April, just around when baseball season's kicking in. Or getting started already about maybe a week or so before. But yeah, it's that time of the year. It's like, all right, spring training, you seen a lot of videos now, fans going to spring training games. There's scrimmages going on now. There's games going on. And it's that time of the year again. It's a nice thing. It's a cool thing for anybody who likes baseball. Last year I went to a couple of games. And again, I go to games when I feel like there's someone that you need to see play. And that's what it was with Shohei. And again, like I said, I'm not a Dodgers fan, but they got my attention because I was hoping that, secretly I was like, oh, wow, if he signs with the Blue Jays, that would be crazy. How many times he goes to Yankee Stadium and play? Likely they might play against the Mets. It's an easy travel. Or if I want to go up to Toronto or whatever, I could do that. Still, he still comes around here. I don't know if they play the Yankees this year. They're going to play the Mets in May. I'll see him around by then to see that happen. If not, I'll watch it on TV. I already saw him play, so it's not as if it's like I got to go see him 800 times now and see him, but we'll see. And again, of course, I usually wait to see how things unfold and, injuries and so on and so forth and who's playing, if it's worth getting the ticket for or not. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. It was brief. Just was talking about, a little of the baseball thing. Anybody who likes baseball, it's a cool time of the year. Oh, I forgot to say one thing. I'm so sorry. The baseball jerseys. The baseball jerseys. I'm going to say it one more time. The baseball jerseys. All right. I understand, the opinions of us, the consumers, right? I get it. I collect jerseys. I want them to be good quality as well. The only issue, I haven't bought one of them. I may buy one of them and give my own personal opinion on the podcast and see. One, there's different tiers now, which I guess is good because it takes the confusion away, maybe, of what you really are getting. You will know because it'll say, hey, these are the on-field jerseys the players wear. This is what you get. Now, they're expensive, of course. But all authentic jerseys are anyway. I have my own ranking system of who I believe makes the best jerseys, but I'm going to stay away from that. I will say, I love the baseball jerseys because there's not any of those that, from all the jerseys, those are the only ones you can basically button up. Everything is a pullover. So it's different with baseball, which I like. I get it. I get what's happening with the fonts, the size of the fonts, the names, and these on the authentic jerseys, because many of the players are saying that the jerseys feel cheap. Now it is stretchy though. There's a stretchy material with it. And knowing how Nike does their stuff. We know how they do. If anybody has been watching or keeps up with sneakers, we have seen that the quality of the sneakers is not the same from 2-3 years ago. That's their decision. They want to make more money, and that's it. At the same time, I'm not here to jab Nike, just saying. At the same time, they want to be different from Majestic, because technically, those jerseys that you've seen the last couple of years were not really from them. They just stitched the Nike, from what I heard. And that's why those jerseys there was no complaints. After that deal, remember, Under Armour had the deal. Then it went away. Whatever happened, it fell through. Sucks for them. I don't know how that one happened. But anyway, Nike does it. Now they're putting their own flavor to it. They want to make them lighter. They want to be more athletic, making it stretchy. Maybe the names are a little smaller. Now, if you want to make a jersey that's lightweight, something's going to have to give. Think about it. I know if it's an inch or two higher or whatever the font size is, we have to kind of put a little perspective. If you want to make something really light and comfortable and on a hot summer's day where you're playing and feel that weight of that jersey on you, not saying that they're 1,000 pounds. We just have to kind of go along with what Nike's saying, Something has to go, whether it's the font, the name, whatever. So, when it comes to that, that's the only thing I could think about. The only reasoning. I've seen videos of the jerseys, and we're all complaining. It's tough when it's different because we're not used to it. We're always compared to something prior. And yes, sometimes it may be the quality, may not be the same, maybe not be so great. As time goes on, because there was a press conference, I think, with the commissioner, and he said the year before the players were raving about their jerseys, that they loved it. We have to remember, not everybody's going to be happy about it. There's always going to be someone's not happy. Now, because we see these things and we hear the players saying it, now we're buying into it. We don't know. Maybe it just takes a little time to get used to it. Then they won't care. Because you know what? At the end of the day, they're playing. We're buying it because we want to, we're supporting the players, the teams, and so on and so forth. As long as they could see their name and the quality is better or good enough for them, it'll get used to it. They'll get used to it. And if not, they'll change it. But we got to see, So, that was the other thing I heard about that I want to talk about. And then now, I think the show's over. So, anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Where did this show go today? I don't know, but we were talking about baseball and a lot of things to look forward to. And for the Dodgers, hey, can't knock you guys. Can't knock that front office. That team wants to win. And for the Mets, goodness. I still like you guys. It's just, it is what it is. Anyway, Amazon, Spotify, Apple. I'll see you guys.